birthday, happy birthday. Peace and love. Thank you. Okay, yes, do you want to do the blurb?
Okay, this was written by Irena's friend, Alec Downie, and we just put it to some music to celebrate or to honour really what he'd been through and his words.
Thank you.
Okay, ready?
Loved it. It's I actually played it myself when I first started. I really sort of bashed it out more as a punk song. But then started to get my hand working last week. It almost done it the exact way I was doing it. So it's really strange to hear it coming from someone else. She has a little Marian Faithfull thing going on there, doesn't she?
That's Katherine Allen. And the guitarist was James Simmons, and I think they developed the song together.
It's a really nice chord progression. Nice, I like that.
Well, you wrote it.
You wrote it. Tell me you wrote it.
I just write things for myself just to sort of keep my brain active. So it's really astonishing to see it performed by someone else.
Well, it's our pleasure. It really is. So, is it okay to ask you some questions? No.
Yeah.
Yeah? Great. Well, just to explain a little bit to the people here, you're now living in Galera in Spain, and you've moved there for reasons of quality of life, and also it's more financially viable for you to live there in Spain. But you were born in 1959, and you grew up in Glasgow, is that right?
Well, I was born between Glasgow and Edinburgh, so sort of halfway between the two, but Glasgow's sort of more home over the years.
Right.
But I spent my formative years in Canada till I was about 11, and then moved back to Scotland and then went off sort of at 16 and went to live in Glasgow and then into the forces.
Right. And you entered the forces at age 18, is that right?
At 17, actually.
17. Why did you actually decide to join the army?
It was an odd choice at the time in central Scotland in the early 70s or mid 70s. We had 25% unemployment, and I was doing a job working building houses for the oil industry.
Right.
I was sort of tottering about singing in bands and doing all the other things you try to do as a teenager, but because it was a small town, there wasn't really any outlet. There was no rehearsal rooms, no venues, unless you went to Glasgow.
Right.
And I was offered a place at art college, but my family couldn't afford me to go.
Oh.
It was just one of those things in life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a way to escape from a small town.
Right.
And it served its purpose in some ways, but you know, it's hard because I sort of more fell into it as opposed to having a desire to do it.
Yes, and if there weren't any other opportunities abounding, then perhaps a decision was made. Do you think?
Well, I was a bit of a rebellious kid.
Right.
I came when I was 11, and with a Canadian accent in Scotland, and consequently I was, and the Canadian school system was a lot more liberal than the Scottish school system, and I think I was just a bit too smart for my own good, so I was sort of rebelled.
Right.
So
you didn't have any particular objectives or ambitions when you joined?
No, I think my only ambition was to get out of Scotland at the time, because I would call it, I affectionately call it the Clockwork Orange generation. As I was growing up, a lot of you know, drugs, you know, very working class, violent community.
Right. Right.
And
sorry to interrupt you in full flow, Alec, but I can see your cats in the background. There's a white one and a black and white one, and they look beautiful, absolutely.
Yeah, we have 9, so you might get a few more occasionally.
Brilliant. Oh, hello. Who's this?
After a Mexican Elvis impersonator.
He's handsome. He's very handsome. Okay, so I suppose back to business. While so you achieved the rank of warrant officer while you were in the army. You were there in total for 22 years. Did you go overseas at all? Did you see any active service?
Yeah. You can't sort of go 23 years and not.
No, sorry, silly question, really.
You do sort of your peacekeeping duties, be it Northern Ireland, Cyprus, UN,
right,
and whatever else. And I was in the first Gulf War, which was probably the major conflict that I was in.
Right.
And out there on pre-advance, and I was out there well before the war started, and then after the war finished, we spent a great deal of time clearing up and then preparing to, come home, which was, it's probably a very pivotal moment in life when you go to a major conflict.
Yeah. Yeah.
It changes, you know, you train a lot of years for that
Yes.
sort of thing to happen in the hope it will never happen.
Yeah.
But equally, you know, it's putting into practice what you've trained for years.
Right.
But also you have to, in the context of, you know, do you believe in what you're doing? I think on that particular war, I didn't have as much reservations as I've had with subsequent wars that the British have been involved in.
Okay.
Because a small country was invaded,
Yeah.
we moved the invading force, and then we left.
Yeah. After, as we said before, 22 years of service, what was your reason for leaving?
To be honest, I didn't believe in particularly what I was doing anymore.
Right.
And I grew out of it. I'm very much self-educated.
Yes, me too.
You know, and I was fortunate in many ways to have a German wife.
Right.
Which meant it gave me an outlet beyond the army, and also used to mix with a lot of music people and artist people and things like that, or people from her work.
Right.
I used to almost be able, when I was in camp, to detach myself. It was like a 9-to-5 job, and then I would have a separate life coming out.
Okay.
As I sort of got older and more confident in who I was as a person, I think I just wanted new challenges, and I didn't particularly like what I was, because I was a warrant officer. I was being asked to make my soldiers do things that I didn't particularly support.
Right, right, that's really hard.
Well, it is, because when you're seeing guys that have been on a 6-month tour to, say, Bosnia, and you come back from Bosnia and you go straight to Canada, go on training, and you're retraining for that, and you come straight back from Canada, have a month off, and you're in Northern Ireland. These guys are not seeing their families for 2 years, barring one month. And the pressure was just intense for the period I left, which was running up to the late 90s. But on top of that, you know, there was a political subversion coming into to what we were being asked to do. And I think that started with Tony Blair.
Right.
And I think it's always been there. Politicians always manipulate the armed forces.
Yes, of course.
But to actually do your job, you have to believe.
Yes, you have to believe. And you found that your belief was waning as time went on.
Most definitely. I still strongly support anyone who's in the armed forces. Because again, they are doing an exceptionally difficult job, and I understand the motivations. You know, from the back streets of Manchester, there's no job opportunities, and you get training, you can get a house, you can get away from that environment. I can't criticise that as a choice. And again, you know, a lot of the values that I have now as an adult were as a young man in the forces. You know, not to lie, not to cheat, take personal responsibility. Those sort of values I still hold dear.
Absolutely, yeah. I can understand why, but you know, if the belief in what you're doing is becoming less and less as you mature, maybe, then you have no option but to let go. Is that right?
Absolutely, and you know, I jokingly say I went from the most homophobic this job in the world to the most, because I went to work for the BBC. Forces. And it's not actually true that the forces has elements of that, but it's a very male-dominated profession. It is very dog eat dog in terms of it's all based on promotion, it's all based on career.
Right.
But equally, you have bonds with people you can hate someone, but you can trust that person with your life.
Yeah.
And it's a different environment, but equally, there's some elements I miss about the forces.
Yeah.
The trust. Civilians, I don't think I can trust that deeply,
Right.
But that's not a criticism of civilians.
No.
They've never been put in situations where you have to trust that deeply.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Without being derogatory, when I was working at the BBC, my biggest risk would be I would teach somebody something wrong, or I'd be late for an appointment, and nobody dies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
If
indeed.
I got 1 second wrong in what I did in the army, I could be responsible not only for the deaths of other people, the enemy, but for my own soldiers.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
what I used to do.
It's huge, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and it's a very, you know the Paul Hardcastle song, the 19. When I was 4, the average age of the kids that I was looking after was 19.
Right.
And
Yes.
that puts an immense pressure on you because
No, I didn't miss it.
you're having to look after them.
Yes, absolutely. In a quite paternalistic way, I suppose, in many respects.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a single soldier that didn't have a moment of crisis over that period.
Yeah.
And you can't have that if you're the leader.
Yes.
You
have to be strong.
Well, yeah, but equally, at that point, I think I was in my late 20s, and I'd matured, and I was trained. You just have to. It's hard to explain, but if you're doing any form of job that requires safety, or where you a farm train over and over, policemen train over and over, they need that to be able to cope with the stresses of what they do.
Yes, indeed. Well, I think we're going to have to wind this session up. And I wanted to know if Toby is ready.
I'll get him.
He's going to sing Masters of War for you and for all of us.
I love that song.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. And I think he'll do a great job of it.
And can I, before you go, can I say thanks so much for inviting me on this, because what you're doing is amazing.
Thank
and
you.
what's even more
I think
amazing.
what you're doing is amazing, actually.
The fact that you did this before people were even talking about Paris, I think Paris has just contextualised what you're doing.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I think we're all really sickened by all of that.
Yeah, and the response from our politicians since Paris has been obscene.
I know.
I was looking at RT today and seeing shares in armaments companies are going through the roof. It just fills me with dread.
Yeah.
And unless people like yourself do things like this, I don't think we can change it. And so I really applaud what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I mean, I always say that I can't really change anybody's mind about anything, but I can live a life that's peaceful and perhaps give an example of how it's possible to do that. To completely eliminate violence from my life is really, really important. So.
Irena, I'm going to disagree with you. You can change people's minds.
Do you think?
If you affirm what they already know.
Yeah.
Some people feel the same as we do.
Yeah.
But unless you have affirmation from other people who have a like-mindedness, they can't feel strong in that feeling.
Yes.
And equally, if you just change one person, one kid, one adult, and that person goes on to change another person, it's how you change. I still have a great deal of faith in humanity, despite what's happening. And unless people speak out and do what you're doing, nothing changes, and it has to start somewhere. So I don't say you can't change anything. You already have by doing this.
Well, you've helped enormously. It's been great talking to you, Alec. So, yes, this is Toby Walkely singing Masters of War, and we bid you good night.
Hey!
Hello! It's a very great pleasure to be here playing for you. And this is a very important song to me. It knocked me down the first time I heard it, and I think it still knocks me down now. So I hope this fits with the bill of the day, and I'll probably get a little bit angry.
Forgive